Okay, so it's always one that got away. What I mean by that is always one person in the family or siblings, typically that moves away from their town, and that was me. Okay, I have two brothers and one sister, um, a lot of cousins, a lot of family. At 19, I left and went to the military. When I went to the military, to get away from my small town in Suffolk, it's part of the Hampton Roads in Virginia. Part of probably heard of Norfolk, but not necessarily Suffolk because it's a small town. I always tell people from the Suffolk I grew up with, that's downtown Suffolk, no one goes there by mistake, like you could with the other seven cities. So Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Norfolk, you can they're interconnected, so it's easy to you know be in Portsmouth, and then also be in Chesapeake, maybe less than a walking distance. So I did leave at 19 and had no desire to really come back, to be honest. Um, like they said, to dodge your life and laugh or something along those lines. But I left at 19, went to the Army, um, and I met my ex husband. Uh, had my two kids. So we first were stationed in Atlanta, and we moved to Savannah. We're not all over, to be honest. Once we left Atlanta, we got married in Savannah, uh, and we had Michaela, my oldest, and then we kind of moved around, trying to figure out what we were trying to do. One of the things is that my ex-husband did not know like what he wanted to do outside of the military, and it was time for him to get out, or he was ready to get out. So we moved to, of all places, Kansas, um, and young mom, 20s, probably like 21, 22, um, and he's probably 23 or something like that, and so we moved to Kansas. That didn't work out. Went to Rock Island, Illinois for like 2 weeks. We're like stressing, like, what are we doing? So finally, some things happened along that another story time, another day. But we ended up going to Texas because his parents actually moved around a lot for work as well. So we ended up going to Texas, following behind them. My ex-husband had a job at Cyber that came open, and so we moved there when Michaela was one. She had her first birthday party there. And when we got there, we wanted to kind of put in some roots, got an apartment. I got a job at an alarm company. And we started our life there for a little while. We still were not feeling comfortable and complacent. And so we wanted to go somewhere around family. So it was either my family, lots of story times for that as to why I had to put consideration into maybe not want to go back there. But um, after being a year or two in, um, maybe even a year, I believe, in Texas, his parents moved to Alabama. So we're there with no family. And so we're like, hey, we want to move around some family, be around some family, and just, raise our daughter. At the time, just it was just Michaela around an environment with family, for a lot of host of reasons. So um, we debated and we thought about his family that lived in Tallahassee. They had lived there for a while. Well, his whole life. So it was roots there. So we quit our jobs and we moved to Tallahassee. Tallahassee is where everything hit the fan. Like Tallahassee is a lot happening in Tallahassee for me and for him that kind of changed the course of our life, or our decisions in Tallahassee kind of warped to us to where we are at now. So we went to Tallahassee, and had roots. That was like the longest place that we had roots at. That I had roots outside of my hometown. Um, Friends to this day, family to this day, like his family, I feel like it's my family still. And friends that I have in Tallahassee that created lifetime memories with. And at that point, I also met great people at work as well, that friends that also cultivated me being a lawyer. So a lot of reasons why that led up to us not being married anymore. Also Mackenzie had came along the way, so my kids have a big portion of their life spent in Tallahassee and in Florida, and so I still never contemplated going back home. That's to get you back to the story at hand, right? So um, I was contemplating law school while I was working at a legal entity that was associated with attorneys. And so I was pushed to do that because I seen great people be lawyers, like black women, things I really didn't have the access back when I was back home. I didn't feel like I did, and I didn't know any lawyers. So I end up, my ex-husband at that time, a lot had happened. We went through divorce. He moved to Jacksonville. So I thought, well, hey, everybody saying, hey, you need help. You're a single mom, you know, or, divorcee, and you may want to have some help. In law school is a lot of work. So I went to a Jacksonville law school to get that help because my ex-husband's there. So I spent the 4 or 5 years, no, that had to be like 5 or 6, close to 5 or 6 years too, in Jacksonville. A lot of things happened there. A lot of story times for another day. Tell you whether I got the help or not. And then ultimately, my sister ended up having twins. My brother had been in legal trouble since I was 14 years old. So things like that kind of motivated me to go back home. Um, I think some family members felt like it was going backwards, going home, and I didn't know what to expect in going back home, back to where I was raised with a lot of my family, a lot of issues. I feel like boundaries and toxicity that I never really addressed with family members. And, you know, I'd almost essentially been on a no contact with a lot of family members that, I felt have crossed boundaries in the past. Let me say that. So, I moved back home. I mean, at this point, I had finished law school. I had the two girls with me. I had the opportunity to travel the world. Like I've been to 8 countries doing law school, studied law in France, and got to travel while I was over there to Spain, Greece, Amsterdam, things of that nature. And now I'm going back home to my small town. That is the adventure. That is the story of a thousand stories to open you up with. I'm now down here in Norfolk is where my business is, and I'm back in my hometown. So just stay tuned to the stories and why I essentially kind of find who I am within that myself being back home. And now I'm kind of contemplating whether I should move away again and just making sure that I'm creating healthy boundaries and not getting sucked back into that toxicity of sometimes what is called family. Stay tuned.